This section is going to consider the accessory organs that secrete digestive juices into the digestive tract. I want to concentrate on the accessory organs that are attached to the small intestine, but I also want to mention the salivary glands. They, of course, are secreting saliva into the oral cavity. There are the three pairs, the parotids, the sublinguals, and the submandibulars, as depicted in this picture. I want to concentrate on the accessory organs that are attached to the duodenum, the pancreas, the liver, and the gallbladder. These provide digestive juices for the small intestine to complete the digestion of our food as it's passing through that structure. The pancreas has been considered within the context of the endocrine system because of the regions called the pancreatic islets, which secrete insulin and glucagon to regulate blood glucose levels. In looking at the structure in that chapter, we considered that there was all this darker staining tissue surrounding it. That's what's called the acinar regions, or the exocrine cells, and they produce and secrete mainly enzymes that are going to be used by the small intestine to finish digesting the food that we've taken in. Those cells secrete into ducts that all come together as the pancreatic duct that runs along the horizontal midline. It branches into two ducts, one of which joins with the bile duct, which I'll talk about in a sec, and the other, the accessory pancreatic duct, has its own entry point into the small intestine. All of the enzymes that are made here are going to break down carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids, and nucleic acids that are in our food. Also, the pancreas will provide some bicarbonate to help neutralize stomach acid. The accessory pancreatic duct provides a means to get that bicarbonate in when the stomach acid is getting into the intestines, but we don't necessarily have that much food, and therefore the bile duct will be constricted. The liver, one of the larger organs in our body, is actually at the cellular level really simplistic. It's kind of homogenized into these repeating units called lobules. They receive blood both from the hepatic artery, bringing in fresh blood, and the hepatic portal vein, bringing in blood that's passed through the digestive tract already. And all of that blood filters through the lobule in little sinusoidal capillaries that will filter the blood. It'll take out toxins from the digestive tract. It'll take out nutrients from the fresh blood. It will take out some of the components of bile that get recycled. All of that then feeds into the hepatic vein, eventually draining away from the liver and going back to the heart. The main purpose of the liver in terms of the digestive system is making bile. Bile is a substance that helps to emulsify the fats in the food that we're digesting as they pass through the small intestine. That's necessary so that enzymes can get in. The components of bile do this job, sort of breaking up the lipids so the enzymes can get in, but they are not changed themselves. Some of them will be reabsorbed back into the liver and recycled to make more bile, and that's what's happening in the lobule. Those components that are collected into the new bile are then going to go out through the bile ducts and drain out of the liver. All of the bile that's been produced by the liver is going to drain through the respective hepatic ducts coming from where that bile was made, which join together into the common hepatic duct. That then flows into the common bile duct, which goes down and empties into the duodenum, which is where the pancreatic duct also empties in. They have a common entry point. When we're between meals, the entry point there at the duodenum will be closed off by a sphincter-like muscle, keeping it closed, and so bile that's being produced will fill up the common bile duct and backfill into the cystic duct, which will then fill up the gallbladder. The gallbladder is just there for storage. While we're between meals, we produce bile, and that's stored in the gallbladder. That'll then be released at the beginning of the next meal when it gets to the small intestine, so that we can emulsify the lipids in that food. Controlling the release of these digestive juices are a couple of important hormones, CCK and secretin, which are produced and secreted by the duodenum into the bloodstream and target the liver, gallbladder, and pancreas. Now, CCK, or cholecystokinin, literally means movement of the gallbladder in the Greek roots that form that word. And so when it's released from the small intestine in response to hypertonic chyme, or foodstuff from the stomach that contains quite a bit of nutrient molecules in it, it'll stimulate the gallbladder to contract and release all of the stored bile. It also stimulates the pancreas to secrete enzyme-rich digestive juices, enzymes available to break down all of that food that's coming from the stomach. Secretin is released from the duodenum in response to a low pH, which would be the stomach acid as it moves into the small intestine. That'll cause the liver to make more bile, and bile contains buffers, neutralizing agents that can take care of that stomach acid, as well as the pancreas secreting more bicarbonate-rich digestive juice, and bicarbonate is a buffer that can neutralize acid coming from the stomach. There are other hormones that play a role in regulating these systems, but these two, I think, are a couple of important ones, and especially they illustrate how the contents of what's coming out of the stomach influence what the accessory organs are going to secrete. That doesn't mean that one secreted or the other secreted. Usually both are secreted, but the strength of the signal can be tied to the strength of the contents of what's coming out of the stomach. Consider this question. When you feel that you've reached an answer, hit the next button to go into the next slide, which will reveal the correct answer. The word cholecystokinin is made up of three main Greek roots: chole, which means bile or gall, cysto, which means bladder, and kinin, which refers to movement, as in kinetic energy, or it's the root of the word cinema, meaning moving pictures. And so it literally means making the gallbladder move or contract.